English. It's not their native language. So whatever instruction the teacher is giving, this young child is now required to translate for their parents. So our parents are really struggling. And once again, I just want to say, if we can kind of focus our attention on creating positive resources and infrastructure to help our families. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Catton is next.
Amy Caton, 42 Sacramento Drive. I want to express that I am extremely disappointed in our district's decision to continue special education instruction remotely. My son is virtually unable to learn remotely. He has missed out on so much valuable time and education. He needs his teachers in front of him in person to learn and be successful. Until you walk a mile in our shoes, you can't even imagine or comprehend my child's frustration, my frustration, the power struggles, the refusals to work, the inability to engage, the confusion and anxiety that remote learning brings. You are not there as my child with Down syndrome struggles to learn how to write his name in remote occupational therapy, forming every letter incorrectly. How do you fix that from the other side of the computer screen? I spoke with our advocate just today, and she was appalled to hear that Leominster is remote right now for our most vulnerable students. She asked, if districts like Lowell, where COVID-19 rates are high, can make this work, why not Leominster? Good question. If parochial schools can make it work, why not Leominster? If special education schools like Keystone can make it work, why not Leominster? You want to follow the science, right? Then let's follow the science and the data, which says that schools are not a contributing source to the spread of COVID-19. Have there been cases of COVID-19 in the schools? Of course, but they did not get COVID in the schools. What I'm hearing the district saying is that there's a lot of mistrust in parents. I don't know a single parent who's going to send their child to school if they have symptoms of COVID-19. Let's not allow theoretical issues to guide our course of action. Why are you not listening to Commissioner Riley? Why are you not listening to State SPED Director Russell Johnston? I'm a nurse and I work with adults who have special needs in a day hub program. We have been open since August 3rd. Even though my job is important, it's not essential. Let's focus on the growing minds. Let's focus on our children. This is your obligation. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Bonnie Budd.
Thank you, Bonnie Budd, 321 Prospect Street. I wanted to start off with a shout out to Principal Doug Niebel at Skyview. He's the model for communication. Doug goes above and beyond in his outreach to families with emails that are easy to read and follow. His response time is stellar and always professional, and he's only rivaled by Principal Dubzinski. Hats off to Doug. Also, the CPAC has 2 meetings this week on Wednesday and Thursday. Everyone should have received an email from Superintendent Deacon. Please check the CPAC page for more details. Moving on a different note, I wanted to say that every day not in school is one step closer to a suicide, one step closer to another case of depression, a compounding of isolation and regression of skills. LPS is failing to meet our students' needs. Our administration and staff is working hard, but they are short-staffed and I'm sure feeling burnout. Students pick up on this whether you think so or not, and their education is feeling the overall impact. Parents are waiting for resources and trainings and are struggling. They needed them yesterday. No one is saying COVID is not risky, but there are guidelines to follow. And may I point out that other heavily populated cities are successfully offering some form of in-person instruction. Why not us? I lastly request no one is allowed to play any sport until all students are returned into school. While I'm a huge supporter of sports and the arts, nothing comes before an education. I find it disheartening that high-needs students are being discarded. We don't offer any sports programs for them, so why is it okay for everyone else to play? This town is not delivering an equitable education experience to any student at this point. We should be ashamed. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Maria McNamara.
I think I unmuted myself now. Can you hear me okay?
Now we can, thank you.
Okay, excellent. So Maria McNamara, 549 Prospect Street. And I was just calling because I am disappointed that our schools are still closed. I do have 2 children in the Leominster Public Schools, one who is neurotypical and one on an IEP. My daughter on an IEP has severe autism, intellectual disability, and apraxia of speech. And her IEP is in violation, and it's just not getting any better. Her outburst of behaviors are getting worse and worse by the day. And unfortunately, we just don't have a good structure. Teachers are working so hard. Our BCBA has been working so hard in making sure that we can get our daughter everything that she needs, but it's just not working. We need to be in school. It's just so difficult. As a parent, I can't deliver the services that she needs, and I'm doing the best I can. And so is her dad, and everyone is in her court doing the best that they can, but this just isn't working. We need our special ed kids back in school. I have accepted that my neurotypical child is remote and we're doing okay. It's okay, but I really, really, really wish that we could get our SPED kids back in school. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Cohen is next.
Yeah, good evening. I'm speaking on behalf of parent Rob Volpe. Mr. Volpe wrote this mock letter, but very instructive one, from the LPS Human Resources Department to the Leominster Schools Department. And it reads like this. Dear School Department, Mr. Volpe has a new role this year as a teacher's aide. Unfortunately, he is struggling and underperforming in many areas. He is showing an inability to multitask between his work and supporting 2 elementary students, one of which has an IEP. Mr. Volpe is failing to meet the expectations needed to support an IEP student. He is underperforming despite the support of 2 great teachers. Often, Mr. Volpe loses patience with his students, resulting in a toxic school environment. Rob has demonstrated poor time management skills. He has trouble communicating effectively to his students. He struggles to differentiate between personal and professional relationships with his students. His personal problems are negatively impacting job performance. He does not lead by example late in the day. His inconsistent guidance is confusing his students. He does not complete assignments completely or in a timely manner. He lacks the knowledge to complete job duties. He often seeks support and assistance from teachers due to lack of job-related skills. He lacks the basic understanding of job-related functions. It is apparent that he is not qualified for his current position and should be terminated. Respectfully, LPS Human Resources Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank and Rob. That concludes the people who've already signed up. So if anybody else who is on the call would like to speak, please now unmute yourself. Say your name and address for the record, please. Would anybody else like to address the committee? Please do so now by unmuting yourself and stating your name and address for the record. One last and final time, if anybody would like to address the committee, please do so now by unmuting yourself. Having no one come forward, we're going to close. Did somebody want to say something? No. All right. Having no one come forward at this time, we're going to close that portion of our meeting. Superintendent, we're going to move on to communications.
Yes, you'll notice in your packet that there is a communication. It's a letter of response from the mayor to a constituent who spoke at one of our open forums. Should anybody want to respond or add a comment or ask a question, I ask that you speak directly to either party. It's all there for you to interpret.
Thank you. We'll move on to the superintendent's report.
So,
I have a question, actually.
oh, sorry.
I'm not sure that what the rules are, but it seems to me that a communication from City Hall to the school department should concern city school business. This seems to be a letter from the mayor to a constituent. I'm not quite sure why it's in our agenda, why it's in our packet. This doesn't seem appropriate to me. So I don't know what the rules are, but it seems rather off. Not to mention, of course, the letter itself contains numerous, what should I say, inaccuracies. So some response is going to be necessary if we're going to leave this in our materials.
May I speak for a moment?
Sure, you can address Michael's question.
Right. So the comments were made to the mayor, about the mayor, in public forum, and we don't respond. We used to be able to respond. We don't, and obviously because our agendas would go on. When there were less confrontational things on the agenda, we did at one time open it up at the beginning of the meeting when I was chair, and we would address people's concerns. We have a short dialogue. We don't do that anymore. I felt it necessary. That's my response.
But
I cannot
that's your
control-
response as a mayor, not as a school committee member.
Right. I can't control what somebody says in a public forum. I can't answer that. In my words, not as a school committee member, but as the mayor. The charter allows the mayor to address and to communicate with both the city council and the school committee. Under the charter, I am communicating as the mayor. That is why you have the communication in front of you. That is my response.
So at this time, it's obviously we don't respond, and we haven't responded pretty much for over the last 20 years that I've been on the committee,
Right.
to public forums. And this is obviously something that you've taken on as a mayor, not as the school committee. These are not necessarily representation of the school
correct.
committee's thoughts or
That's correct. You don't
understanding
have
of
to
the
vote.
things.
Correct.
Yeah,
You don't have to vote on it. You don't have
Right.
to vote on it. It's not a transfer of funds. You don't have to vote on it. It's my, as mayor, using my authority under the city charter, I'm using that to send you a communication.
So it is obviously communication between you and a constituent that you've shared with us.
Correct.
We have all been, I think, criticized at one time or another. And, you know, as a committee, you know, we don't respond to the open forum. Isabel, you had a hand up?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to echo Michael's sentiments, and I understand that through the charter, the mayor is allowed to do this. However, as elected officials, I think criticism and call out in public forum comes with the territory. And I think this is incredibly inappropriate. I want to let Ms. Liddy know that I would not like this to be in our packet. I don't want it to be in public record. I think the mayor should have sent this directly to you if there was an issue. That being said, it is in our packet, but I just wanted to echo Michael's sentiments and say that I do think this is incredibly inappropriate.
Peter, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I mean, I would like that if this is going to, I mean, it's already part of the packet. And so if this is going to be, you know, part of the public record, you know, make it known either, I mean, I as an individual would also echo something that Michael pointed out, that there are several inaccuracies in the mayor's response in this letter. And so if it's going to be public record, you know, I think it's, I would like it to be noted, you know, that there are inaccuracies. I can cite a few specific ones, but I mean, I think it might even go so far as, you know, we, in the minutes, you know, if others, you know, want to vote on it, I mean, I'd make a motion that the school committee just acknowledge that there are, you know, some pretty significant inaccuracies in this letter.
So I think, you know, whenever we get a correspondence, it's not necessarily something that we need to formally discuss. I think in the minutes, it's going to show that numerous school committee members are not feeling that it is an accurate representation of the facts, and the mayor may see the facts differently, but that the school committee as a whole does not agree with all the things that are said, don't agree with, you know, calling out an individual. Quite clearly, we all receive criticism from time to time, and certainly have done so, particularly this year, more than any other year. you know, I think that's noted. I don't think that we need to rehash the letter or bring that out because we don't respond to public forum. And this is not something from the school committee. This is something that is from the mayor only, if that makes sense to people. If there's no other further discussion, then I would move that we continue with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. This week it's been a roller coaster for us with everything that's been happening. But I would ask tonight that we recognize we lost two major contributors to the Leominster Public School Department. Number one was Mr. Greg Angelini, who was our counsel as a school committee and a school department. I've had many meetings with him, and I know the chair would probably adore him for his skiing, and Okemo was his passion, and I was really surprised by his passing. It was a surprising for everyone. We also lost a great leader as well, Mr. David Hay, and anyone in the Leominster Public School System would have known him as a teacher, as an administrator, a friend, a mentor for the largest part. I got to know David when I was transitioning down to this role, and he stepped in to help me at Fallbrook, and I had heard stories about him. And the man's a legend. And I think everyone I've come in contact with has a David Hayes story. And I just saw him maybe 2 weeks ago, so I was very shocked. Both of those gentlemen are a loss to the Leominster Public School System. So I would ask that we take a moment of silence for both of them and honor them. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Yeah, they're great guys. We also had some tremendous news today. I received word over the weekend and this morning, hold on, I'm trying to get the official word, that one of our schools, Fallbrook Elementary, was recognized and will be receiving a national honor. The Department of Education recognizes 2 schools. Each state recognizes 2 schools. And in the state of Massachusetts, one of them was Fallbrook Elementary, out of all the schools in the state. And they are being recognized for their excellence in serving special populations of students. It says the state guidelines, data, and assessment were used to determine that Fallbrook exceptionally address achievement, growth, and attendance with all of its students, but specifically their lowest performing. This is a huge national honor. We have received before statewide, but this is a national honor. So in February, Fallbrook will be honored. There's only 100 schools, not school districts, schools in the country that are going to be honored by the Department of Education. And I want to send out a huge congratulations to everyone for doing what they have done to make sure that our students stay engaged. If they have to visit homes, if they have to provide materials, people in the Leominster Public School System, we get it done, and that we care. This is tremendous for us, and especially where we're sitting now in this very complex, who knows, unprecedented time, to know that we can do this, we will do this, and we get recognized for doing this. So congratulations, Principal Jeff Sullivan and all of the teachers over there. They've done a great job, and we are so proud to put Leominster Public Schools on the map nationally. I'm thrilled beyond belief. So they deserve all of our kudos. Good job, guys, and please keep up the great work. We're so proud of you. Thank you.
Yeah, what a wonderful, wonderful honor.
It really is. It really is. Great job.
Excellent.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I would like to move David Hayes Scholarship Fund to the forefront of the agenda. Okay, Mr. Sullivan has joined his own school committee, so I'm going to pull him out of his school committee to join our school committee. Jeff, are you there? Give him a second. Jeff? He has the worst connection. No. Okay. Why don't we go to David? And now, do you think that's him? Go to David and we'll come back to him.
All right, so I'm a little confused where to, oh, here's Jeff Sullivan now.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry about that. Good evening. How are you guys?
Hey, Jeff. I know you're in another meeting. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I didn't get the introduction. I can just jump right in about Mr. Hay.
Oh, I just have to tell you. And then you got kudos. Congratulations on your national recognition, Fallbrook. Yeah, I know. You beat that attendance record. You got those kids in. We said, nope, if you have a sniffly nose, you're coming in. So great job. You and your staff have been tremendous.
I agree. The staff is amazing. I agree.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for recognizing them. So can I speak about David real quick?
Yes, please.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I guess I'll just jump right in. So good evening, obviously. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about David tonight. I don't know, well, I'm assuming most of us here, at least know the name, but for those of you that don't know David, he was a highly respected former educator, administrator, and became a friend as well. And when Paula became superintendent, he came back to Leominster and worked alongside me at Fallbrook, which was great because it was sort of a full circle. He had actually hired me back in 2001. So it's kind of a personal thing for me, but I also know how much impact he had on Leominster. So sort of why we wanted to present this, but he was dedicated, he was kind, and he always put his family and our families first. Those of you who knew him, that was sort of his thing, would be family first, which, isn't unique, but he always made it a priority, which was nice. So on behalf of Fallbrook, we're proud to honor our friend and colleague by officially instating the David Hay Memorial Scholarship Fund. And what that is, and it's ongoing, but basically it's a scholarship that will go to a graduating high school senior, entering college, majoring in education. And we might tweak that a little bit. We might think about Fallbrook, but he worked at other schools as well. So for now, it's going to be general to any graduating Leominster senior. I've already spoken with Stephanie Santucci at LEF, and as of today, we already have more than $500 donated to initiate this scholarship, with the ultimate goal of it being a yearly $1,000 award. And given the current COVID situation, this year, and only this year, it will be solely funded by donated contributions. We're establishing a permanent funding source for future years. One of our ideas is an annual combination cup stacking readathon event here at Fallbrook. David had a passion for reading and literacy, and he was always proud to champion that. I remember one of the first meetings he came back to Fallbrook, he played a video for the staff about the Screen Actors Guild and famous actors reading popular stories. He was very passionate about that. So that's sort of how we're going to go about that. So, and I don't want to solicit or anything, but if anyone does want to donate, please reach out. We can definitely help out with that. And like I said, Stephanie Santucci at LEF has everything all set up. We're also taking donations at Fallbrook to then pass on to LEF. So just very proud. Obviously, we're saddened by the news. It was very sudden, but very proud to know, given how he dedicated his life to education in particular in Fallbrook. So we're very excited for that. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or if I wasn't clear or need clarification, but.
Jeff, he would be absolutely.
I did. I'm sorry. I did speak to his family. I wanted to make sure that I had their blessing first too, as you know. I want to respect their privacy, and they were humbled, and like you just said, Paul, his daughter told me that in the last few years he was reading 5 books a week, but it was always something that he kind of championed for the kids too. It was always, he established a library. I know he went down to Connecticut for a while too, but he established a library there. Just, you know, the family was very, very humbled by it as well. And they said embarrassed, but I think what they meant was they couldn't believe that. I don't think they realized what kind of impact he had on people wherever he went. So,
Jeff, do you know, did he ever officially retire? Because I don't think he ever stopped working.
I think after he left, I think he had a year before he came to Fallbrook, and then he was very good with his hands. He loved to woodwork and so forth. So I think he finally did retire after he left Fallbrook the second time.
Yeah.
But he was always so busy. So it wasn't as if he was, you know, he was traveling or like I said, working with his hands, and he redid a few homes as well. So
Yeah.
very talented guy.
So this is what we do best in Leominster. We honor those who have given in the past, who passed it forward. He was a mentor. I even felt a little enamored of him. And when he came back, I just said, oh man, this is the legend. So in education, if we can help another student move forward and bring more teachers into our district that are from our district, this is the way to do it. So thank you, Jeff, for setting this up, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you I'm sorry to jump in. Thank you for saying that. We had several conversations about that, and that's why we wanted to make sure it was an education student, and hopefully we can retain some of that talent that's in our schools now and graduating. That was something that we had, you know, talked a lot about. I know it's a goal of ours here as well. So
He'd love it. I
Yep.
know he'd love it. I know he would love it.
I think
So
it's a
thank you all.
wonderful way to honor, you know, somebody who's given so much to the Leominster school system. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And keep up the good work at Fallbrook.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody else have any comments that they wish to share?
Jeff, so proud of you guys. Good job.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Paula, do you want to resume your superintendent report?
I'm good. We can move
Are you
forward
done?
with, David Plazzi. Thanks.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
I just wanted to congratulate, first of all, Fallbrook. I went to Fallbrook School, so I'm very proud to hear that, and it's great for our district and all the hard work that everybody's doing. What a wonderful award for everybody involved. Anyway, just to update you guys, I think we met last time, and I kind of gave you the update of where the COVID-19 task force was headed with winter athletics and all the modifications and different changes they had in sports that they were thinking about sponsoring and the dates and times they were going to begin. I did send that out, the packet today with the final version. We have 26 athletic directors that meet within the Midland-Wachusett League, and we kind of coordinate back and forth with principals, and I know the principals talk to the superintendent, so it's a pretty well thought out document. Some of the sports that they have elected to sponsor were boys and girls hockey, boys and girls basketball, ski, gymnastics, and swim and dive. Two of the sports that we'll be sponsoring that we have at Leominster would be boys and girls basketball and ice hockey. They've moved the cheer and the indoor track to fall 2, which is February 22nd, but they have allowed the indoor track to practice like football did in the fall. They need to be outside, and they had moved the wrestling to the spring season for April 26th. That would begin at that time. We had many discussions, our Wachusett League, so kind of, you know, through our talks with our principals and the superintendent, some of the different changes for the winter, obviously, we're moving inside, and there's concern there. But I think the way we've put together our plan to limit our teams, our roster sizes to 12 in basketball and 20 in ice hockey. Many of the protocols that were in place in the fall, hand sanitizing, socially distancing, mask wearing, all of those things will be in place in full force. One of the differences with the winter sports that, obviously some of the spectators will be upset, but we feel, as a Midland Wachusett League, to kind of push this forward and make people feel a little bit safer is to have no spectators at games at this time. So it will only be the athletes, the coaches, and the officials. That is for hockey arenas and for basketball. They put together pods again with 5 or 6 teams in basketball, girls hockey and boys hockey. So we're able to do our contact tracing and have rosters readily available, who's at what practice. Pretty much the same thing we did in the fall. We were lucky in the fall. We had 0 cases with any of our student athletes. And, it wasn't perfect, but I think everybody, worked as hard as they could to follow the protocols and try to keep everybody safe and really get through the season, which we did in all of our athletics. The other thing I had, just to share before questions or whatnot, was to continue the reduction in user fees. I know in the fall we had moved them to 100, 50, and 30. So 100 full, $50 would be reduced or second child, and $30 would be the free lunch fee. Hockey needs to be discussed. I would suggest we go from $250. Hockey is one of our most expensive sports for ice time and whatnot, and to move that down to a $200 fee for the winter. So that's kind of what I have. If there's any questions or.
Would anybody else like to comment?
This is Dean. I have a question.
Go ahead, Dean.
Coach, I'm hoping that we're really holding out that before the end of the 2021 school season here, or should I school year, that we'll be able to play that Thanksgiving game at some point, even if it's a week before graduation. Is that still kind of in the planning mode, or is that still the thinking?
Yeah, so we're obviously fall 2 starts in February for cheer, football, and all the other sports. So we're definitely, I've been in contact with the athletic director, Craig Antossi at Fitchburg, and we're definitely trying to we're obviously going to play the game, but at what time, when we play the game, that's kind of up in the air, but we're definitely planning on playing Fitchburg in football.
Good.
So.
Happy to hear that. Happy to hear that.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
And keep up the good work.
Does anybody else have any questions for David or any comments? All right, we appreciate you, David, coming before us. Oh, go ahead, Mike, sorry.
Sorry, I just have one quick question. You mentioned changing the fee for hockey. Do you just do that, or does that require action on our part?
That would require a vote, I believe, from the school committee for just this winter season.
Right.
You need that tonight, or is that at a later meeting?
I would probably need that whenever we could get it. I mean, the fee is not due until the kids make the team. So
we had voted on a reduction already of sports user fees. We didn't specifically mention hockey, not knowing what was going to happen, but we're continuing the same reduction on all other sports. I don't know, and Chris Silverman, I don't know whether you know if our actual vote had the numbers from before, or did we just vote to decrease?
I don't remember, but I can look.
We'll
Okay.
send it back to the committee as we get the details.
I think I gave the numbers when you guys voted. The only
Okay.
reason I did not just ask for a vote to continue with the reduction is because hockey is more expensive than all
Right.
other sports. Everything is $150 and hockey is $250. So that's why I brought that to the committee tonight to vote, just to keep all of the others that we did in the fall the same and reduce hockey from 250 to 200.
All right, why don't we, just to eliminate any problems, have a vote? If someone who would like to make a motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the request to reduce the fee for hockey to $200.
And to continue, I would just add to continue the reduction for all sports.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
That'll be
I'll accept that amendment. Yep.
I'll second
I'll
it.
make
Ron,
a second. Second.
Okay.
And can I just
Dee?
clarify? So does the school committee need to take a vote for winter, fall two, and spring sports, or once we've approved fall, we've approved the whole year?
So I think our original vote was for fall sports. I think at our last meeting, we were still in hybrid mode, and we don't need to approve if we're in hybrid. So right now we're on a temporary pause, but we still have voted to continue hybrid. We have not voted to go fully remote.
Correct.
So we
That's
should
right.
be fine in that respect.
Yes.
Ron, did you have a question or a
Yeah,
comment?
I did have a question that kind of, it was based on what you were saying and what Paula was saying. If the school, right now the schools are remaining remote till January 4th. If the schools remain remote after January 4th, how's that going to affect the athletic venues on that? Because right now we're facing, as everyone knows, we're facing a public health crisis, and it's getting bigger every day. And it's, yes, I love sports. I played football in high school, but I also know that we have to be extremely careful that we don't know what we're playing with these athletic things. I'm
Right.
very concerned. I'm very concerned that we may regret these athletic, because it's just, I love sports. Don't get me wrong. I love football, baseball, hockey, you name it. But not when I see people dying. Not when I see people sick. They're I
So
worry.
Right, and I think
ahead.
everyone shares in your worry, Ron.
But
I
even
think
though
that
everyone
there
shares
was
my worries,
people-
the talk about athletics worries me.
Mhm.
It worries me tremendously. Yes, education is a big thing, but at the end of the day, if there's nobody there to be educated, and there's nobody there for sports, what are we going to do?
Right,
I mean,
but
we
I
really
think
have to wonder where our commitments are. That's just me.
Right.
He was asking
And
Paula.
I think,
Go ahead.
ultimately, it's going to be up to parents to make that choice for their children. And Paula, I know you wanted to make a comment.
I just want to say, Ron, at this point on the books, we are a hybrid district. We
Yeah.
have a hybrid plan. We were in a hybrid mode pre-K through 9, no problem. We took a pause because of what was just happening. So I talked to David, I talked to Steve all the time. If we ever had to pull back because our city went even worse than where we're at right now, we would stop it. So we talk, excuse me, we talk pretty regularly. We're never going to put kids in harm's way. And so if we ever think that it is too dangerous for them to go out there, we will not do it. Right now, we are considered a hybrid district. We're just slowing things down. We got there. We got there pre-K to 9. It just, the timing is just terrible. And where these sports are starting after the holiday season, we're hopeful. David and Steve and I, we want, this is about the kids right now. And I talked to David this morning, and we were worried about the parents' participation. And I said, you know what, that has to go on the back burner. If we can get students involved, that's our priority. Get them involved, get them out, get them moving. So we talk all the time about this. So if we can move forward under the guidance, we're going to. The second we cross a line, we'll shut it down. I promise we'll shut it down.
Melissa?
Hi. So Dave, just to confirm, the start date is December 14th, because I know on the state level, then there'd been some discussion about pushing it back till January 15th after the holidays.
Yeah, the latest that we got, the latest information that I sent you was today was December 14th to start practicing. Correct.
Okay, just because in my opinion is slightly different than Ron's, because I do see the social piece. I do see the mental health piece and how important this is to kids and financial opportunities and all kinds of other things. But I also don't want to send the wrong message that athletics are more important than schooling and our kids aren't in school. So I have no problem with sports occurring if our kids are back in school, especially our special ed population.
So I would just say, Melissa, that we as a committee voted for fall sports when we were a remote district, knowing that it was important for children to have an outlet. So I would just throw that out there as a reminder. Clearly, we want to see, or all children back to school, as much as possible, and hopefully that will happen in January. Paula?
Sorry to interrupt again. So our kids are in school. They're just not in person. Teachers are knocking this stuff out of park. So it's not like it's a snow day or vacation or whatever. I asked the staff to give 200% and make sure that our students are completely engaged. Make sure you see every student. Make sure you talk to every student. Make sure they're doing everything that is possible in the safest realm. So we're in school. We're just not physically in person. So if there's any outlets for our students right now, that feels really important to myself, because I know the teachers are trying so hard. And even though we have people who are sick and we don't have the staffing right now that we need to have in order to keep everything safe, the sports give students an outlet. Our clubs give an outlet. And so I just want to reiterate, our kids are really fighting and they're doing a great job, and teachers are doing their best. So I just wanted to put another plug out there. We're trying as best we can to push this curriculum forward.
Does anybody else have a comment? Because we do have a motion and a second on the floor.
Move the question.
Dean?
The
Move
user
the question.
fee.
Oh, okay, sorry, I couldn't understand you. You're a little garbled.
No, move the question.
Yeah, got it. So I'm going to take a voice vote. Brandon?
Yay.
Melissa?
Yay.
Sue?
Yay.
Peter?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
Ron?
Yay.
Isabel?
Yay.
Dean?
Yes.
And I'm a yay. So the motion carries around the user fees. Thank you very much, Dave, for updating us and coming before us again.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the SPED update.
Yes, we have, before we have Kim Woodford give a SPED update, we have a teacher feature. We have Miss Megan Roy. Megan, are you on there? I can see her. Megan?
Yes. Yes,
Her-
I'm here.
Her team is phenomenal.
Thank you.
She can, this group of teachers work, I mean, we all work hard. These guys have been dressing in garb. They've had shields and masks, and you don't have the outfit on tonight, Megan. Everything that the day looks like. And every time they come back to work, I say, oh, they came another day. These are our soldiers out there right now, and I wanted to give them the forefront to just show you what it looks like and what it feels like in a typical day in someone like Megan Roy's class. So Megan, I'm going to give you the floor.
Okay. Steve, you're going to present the video?
Yes.
There it is. Okay, so I guess we'll watch this, and then if there's any questions afterwards, on behalf of Skyview Middle School and my ABA substantially separate classroom. I'm going to talk a little bit about what applied behavior analysis is, which is what we use in the classroom, as well as what the at-home learning and in-person learning looks like in my classroom. So applied behavior analysis is a therapy that's based on the science of learning and behavior. It involves many, many techniques for understanding and changing behavior, and it's a very flexible and fluid treatment so that the individual needs of each student can be met, can be provided at home and school, the community, and it teaches skills that are useful in everyday life. We also use the one-to-one discrete trial teaching, which breaks down academic lessons so that the student knows what is expected of them. And we use errorless learning to begin so the student knows what they are learning. We also use small group instruction. The ABA helps us as educators to understand how behavior works, how it's affected by the environment in the classroom, and how that learning takes place. The ultimate goal is to increase the positive behaviors that are helpful and allow the student to be successful, and to decrease those maladaptive or negative behaviors that are harmful or affect the student's learning in a negative way. The students in my classroom each have their academic, social, behavior, and communication needs met. We do have 13 students in my class, one of who is fully remote, and we have another student who is with us for 2 classes a day. So again, we teach both individually in the discrete trial teaching method, and then whole group instruction. So the classroom is comprised of myself, a special education teacher, as well as ABA tutors who support these students. And then we have consultation and daily support from our behavior specialist. We also provide daily social skills groups, which is very crucial to teaching the children in my classroom how to read social cues and what is appropriate and inappropriate, and how to speak to an adult or a peer, people of authority, things like that. We do use the reverse inclusion model when we are in school prior to the pandemic, when we have some general education students come on up to my room and we play games, we play charades, we teach from a social skills curriculum, and having that peer model support there is phenomenal for the kids in my room. The students also, as I said before, benefit from having those ABA tutors as they support them in their individualized academics and also implement individual behavior support plans as necessary. As you can see, the in-person learning, there are 2 pictures. The one on the left is the students' desks that are 6 feet apart. They each have their own milk crate that they put their backpacks, their coats, and their academic learning supplies in. And on the right, you can see the Chrome cart that we have. So each student has an individual Chromebook that is assigned to them for the 2 days that they are in school, so that they are able, or they're not sharing those Chromebooks. For at-home learning, we use a Google Classroom and an interactive notebook that we outline our daily lessons in. As you can see listed, there's the curriculum that we follow. And each of these academic programs meet the individual needs of the students to allow them to be successful and maintain their already acquired skills. The next couple slides are examples of our interactive notebook. You can see it lists the block, the class, and the time. And it also has the written directions as well as they hear the verbal directions from us. It's interactive, meaning that you can see the super science and they click on that and it takes them to the article. The return of the kakapo, for example, which is an endangered species parrot, and we learned about that this past week. They attend specials and they do this independently during remote days only, so they're able to leave my Google Classroom and go to, for example, Miss Foley's this cycle. E-block, same thing. We learned about beluga whales this week. And there's 3 videos that you cannot see, but if I were to click on them, you would see that it is a follow-up to the 4 days of teaching, explaining what happened to those whales in the sanctuaries and things like that. So students are very well versed and are able to navigate the classroom, and they're able to leave my classroom and go to their occupational therapy, their speech therapy, their physical therapy, and take MAP tests. So please feel free if you have any questions about the substantially separate classroom. I provided my email address, or you could call the school and just get in touch with me and I can certainly answer any questions you may have. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Megan? It sounds like a wonderful, comprehensive platform that you're using. So very exciting. Ron, did you have something?
I just appreciated her presentation. It was very good. I enjoyed it very much. She
Thank
put a
you.
lot of effort in that, and she shows she has puts a lot of effort in her classes. It was really good.
Thank
Very
you.
informative.
May I ask a question through the chair, please?
Sure.
Megan, that was phenomenal. Thank you. I know how
Thank you.
hard your team works and how difficult it is. I know right now we're in a remote setting. Can you just explain the difference between having your students? If you could have them in person, we know that that would be the best scenario. We can't have that right now, just
Right.
because of our circumstances. What does it look like? So if it's remote, how difficult is it for you guys right now?
It's difficult. The kids are able to log on. The majority of them log in on time for homeroom. But it's difficult to have 13 of them and one of them half for 2 of those classes on the screen at once, meeting their IEP goals and their individual, be it if they're having a tantrum at the time, trying to get them out in a breakout room so we're still able to teach, but not have that student be interrupting those other 12 students that are engaged in the classroom. We just currently this week worked on them using the raise your hand feature in Google Classroom, and it's been tremendous because they were all just talking at once before. And so we've finally figured out, and they're able to use that raise your hand feature, and the class goes much more smoothly when they're able to do that. But it is difficult to keep them all on task and answering questions that are on topic and not just making statements, but asking relevant questions and things like that. So it is difficult. And like you said, Paula, in person is definitely the best way to be, but obviously we can't be like that right now.
I appreciate everything your team has done.
Thank you.
You have been dressing appropriately. I know you guys have been wearing the garb and all of that and attending. It's just a very difficult time. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for everything that you've been doing. And I know it's tough, and we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
We will.
I want everybody to hang in there. It's tough. It really is tough. And thank you for your time tonight. Truly.
Sure. But the kids are doing amazing, regardless of any daily setbacks we have. They really are well versed, and they're really doing well in their interactive notebook in their classroom.
I know. And you know what? And you guys have done a very nice job reaching out to parents and saying, listen, help me if you can. Give me everything that you have. Let's do this together. And when it gets too tough, we're accommodating. We're very accommodating. So again, you've been more than gracious.
Thank you.
Great.
And
Thank
Paula,
you.
if I can, sorry, Eileen, would I be able to just stop in for a quick sec? Just again, big props to Megan and the whole team here at Skyview. I will say the amazing thing about having the kids in for the short amount of time that we did, when we had them coming in for 2 days, trying to get them up to 4 days, it is amazing to watch the progress that Megan and her team are able to make with these students 2 days a week. I mean, they come in, and when they come back out, they are standing 6 feet apart. They are following the rules. They are learning. They are keeping their masks on. It is everything that we worried about with our ABA crew. Really, we haven't had to worry. No. They've come in. The team gets them doing everything they're supposed to be doing. You go to that classroom, and those kids are seated. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're learning. And that's been a big piece. And it's tough not to have them back in the building right now, because they were making some fantastic progress. And they are very impressive online from home. And Megan and the crew are doing a great job with them. But this is a crew that has been thriving in the short time that they came back. And we would love to get them back in. So thank you, Megan, and the whole team.
Thank you, Mr. Nebel.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Kim, are you ready to take over?
Thank you very much. And thank you, Megan, for your presentation. And I'm glad to see all the new technology that we bought that you're using and having some success with. And also really appreciate your honesty, because we do know that there's been, it is challenging to work with some of our students remotely for sure. And I think it's gotten us to really have to think differently, having to find different kinds of resources. But I like what Doug was saying about the fact that when our kids are coming in the building, we are seeing some great things happening when we have our students there. Obviously, even some of the data that we're starting to look at team meetings, we're having an opportunity to see some growth that students have had. Even with the remote learning, it's a different way of doing things, but we're still seeing that growth. So, I appreciate everything that everyone had to say this evening. So I'm going to have Steve put up my little chart that I have so that I can join you and share our special ed update. A lot of the information that I'm sharing tonight, I've already put out on the website, and I put in School Messenger, but I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about what we're doing to make sure that when January 4th comes, nobody has a crystal ball, but our plan is, to hopefully have our students in-person learning. Early childhood always has a unique lens for students, just because we have our 3-year-olds coming into our early childhood program. So students have needs. Scheduling has always been very individualized, so that's why you see just a variety of different scheduling for those students. There are some classrooms that have different cohorts, but there may be 1 or 2 students in that cohort who really need to come the 4 days a week. And so those are team decisions. We pull the team together to have those discussions and to make those decisions with the families. Our 2 classrooms, one of them being Megan's classroom, who is her students are just coming 2 full days a week, and then at Francis Drake, the students are coming 4 half days. And the goal is to get those classrooms in a space where we can have them coming 4 full days. And to make that happen, we've had to hire some additional staff, some new teachers, we've needed to hire some ABA tutors, and we actually have been interviewing like crazy. HR is really working with us to move things as quickly as they can. We've actually had quite a few interviews, and we feel confident that we can have that staff in place by January 4th. And so the families from Francis Drake and Skyview will be hearing from us. I'll be providing a couple of updates, probably one at the end of this week to those families, and then again before we go on school break. But we feel hopeful that by January 4th we'll have the staff. Feel very grateful to the principals in those buildings who have made a lot of arrangements to give us extra classrooms, extra space, so that we can spread those students out, so we'll be able to have them coming 4 days a week. And then on my next screen, I just have some bullets that I wanted to share with you. I know that I just said I was going to be sending some letters out to those families. I've already sent one, just giving them a little bit of an update. And then Bonnie spoke a little bit about this week that CPAC has 2 workshops coming up. So they're doing a little workshop series. And I think that there's one on speech and language, and then there's another one from Seven Hills. Seven Hills is an organization that provides a lot of resources to families, and they're going to be presenting some of those resources. So Bonnie, thank you for organizing that. I'm hoping for right after the beginning of the school year, when we come back after the new year, I'd like to do another community parent forum. It's worked out really well when we've done those by having us do a little presentation with the coordinators, joining us, sharing some of the things that are happening in the schools, and then having parents ask questions and getting some feedback from families as well. So I'm looking forward to starting the new year off with some parent feedback. We have had our iPads for a little bit, and we've hired some staff to come in and help us get those organized. It's a pretty big task. Right now, we've got 95 iPads distributed, and we have 25 ready to go pretty soon. Hopefully by the end of this week, we'll be able to distribute the rest of them. And then Megan did a nice job including some of these additional resources that we've purchased for our sub-separate programs. Teach Town is one of the tools that does video modeling. It has social skills. It's got academic, behavioral programming. it's got all of the tools that we'd like to see our families have access to in one place. The next step that we'd like to do is to do some more parent training. Actually, TeachDown does a lot of nice things that they have online. They already provide some of that, but I know that parents still have some questions about that resource. So I'm hoping to maybe address those at the parent forum, and then maybe able to find some time to teach families how to use some of the more resources on there. The EdMark Reading Program is a program that we've used for years with our sub-separate programs, and now they have an online program, so we've been slowly providing that to classrooms so that it just gives us great data. It really lets us know where our students' challenges are, what are the target areas that we need to be looking at, and it's just a very user-friendly tool. And we've just purchased Seesaw, which is actually a remote learning platform, but it's really a nice developmental tool for some of our students who may find, Google might be too much for them. It may have too many features for them. And so Seesaw is a nice place for teachers, especially for the students in the early childhood, to be able to access. So staff is getting pretty excited about being able to use that resource. So I think I've talked to you about this a little bit before, but one of our challenges this year has been that we have had 3 of our school psychologists resign. And even though HR is posting and updating it constantly, we literally have had nobody applying for those jobs. And that's across the state. As I talk to other SPED directors, anybody who's had a school psychologist resign, it's been very difficult to fill those positions. We have been pretty lucky where we have about 5 different consulting psychologists. All of them have full-time jobs, but they're helping us by doing some of our assessments. And so parents might be getting some phone calls from somebody who's not a Leominster Public School employee, but they'll be able to introduce themselves and talk about how they're helping us with assessments. They are going to continue to do some of those assessments during this remote period right now. Many of them have their own offices, and they can invite families to come to their office. They're very flexible about how they're going to be doing these assessments. And so you might be hearing, if a parent has a child that's going through an assessment period, it might be one of the consulting psychologists that'll be reaching out to you. We're finding that it's going quite smoothly, and really appreciate that we were able to even find these resources. As far as testing and assessment from our own staff, that's kind of paused right now as far as in-person assessments. However, our early childhood team has developed their own virtual evaluation. They actually started doing some of this really, really early. In the beginning of the school year, they had already come to the table with some ideas and some resources. And so it's pretty impressive, actually, the work that they're doing. And that they're doing it as a team, that they've really found who's the specialist that's going to be able to do this part. A lot of parent input, providing families with the tools that they need so that students are able to, when they're doing it virtually, be able to have the resources in front of them. And our staff across the district is also finding unique ways to be able to do virtual assessments. Even if it's just right now, they may not be able to do the whole assessment with the student, but there may be portions of it that are appropriate to do virtually. And that's not an unusual way to do testing. Oftentimes students can't sit for a whole session of testing, and so oftentimes we do break it up. So that's not an unusual way for us to get the information we need to share with the team. We're continuing. Team meetings are still happening right now. I know my girls have pretty tight schedules, and teachers have had to be really flexible about their schedules too, but team meetings are happening remotely. You should be hearing, for the parents of special ed students, you are supposed to be getting some updated learning plans. These learning plans are the plans that we've been sharing with families that reflect the services that we are providing for students, whether it's in person or remote. And so teachers right now, they should have both of those plans in front of them. They should have developed a remote plan and an in-person plan, and then they should be tweaking those and making sure that families know when those services are being delivered. If for some reason a family member has not received anything updated, they should reach out to their child's liaison and just ask them about the update, it may be something that hasn't changed that much, and maybe that's why you haven't gotten anything that's new. But please know that that's something that'll be ongoing while we're in a hybrid or a remote session. And then I wanted to just share with you that we have a new grant that's been made available to us. This is a grant that shows up every once in a while, Grant 274, and it's a grant that's for school improvement. And so I'm excited to see that available to us because it's going to give us an opportunity to get those supplies for those new classrooms. And I really want to start already. I know it sounds silly, but in special ed, we often start thinking about summer programming at Christmas time. Doesn't seem right, but it happens. And we're going to really need to be thinking deeply about our summer program. We're probably going to be thinking about how we're going to provide some compensatory support for some of these students who may need some additional resources over the summer. So I'm looking forward to developing that grant into something that's going to help us build a summer program that is going to be able to give our students what they need. So I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has anything that they'd like to ask me.
Thank you, Kim. That was, I really appreciate tonight. I would really love the committee to understand that Kim has not been given a break by the state during this on any level. They have kept the expectations par, and she has been trying as hard as she can to bring everything she can to students in Leominster. She was the hardest phone call to make last week when I said, we need to go remote through the holidays, because she begged me to keep the schools open to make sure that students, you know, received what they could. We just didn't have the staffing for it. So Kim has been, she's on a roller coaster right now. So whatever it's going to take, we are putting all our eggs in her basket. And so I don't want families to think that we're just, you know, pushing these things to the side. The state literally is holding us accountable, and they're treating this year as any typical year. So she is watching all of those service hours and all of the provisions that she must give. And so I just want to say thank you to her team. And I know it's difficult, but I just really need them to hang in there right now.
Thank you, Paula. Ron, you had a comment?
Yeah, I had two questions. Kim, you were saying there was, I wrote it down, there was 3 psychologists that resigned, and you were saying it's like this throughout the state. What's precipitating them to resign? It's overwhelming work or whatever? What is it?
Yeah, it's always been a challenge to find school psychologists. It's just because that field is just booming. And schools are hiring more school psychologists, special ed programs are growing more. And so those individuals that have that skill set have a lot of options available to them. And so when somebody does resign, even if it was one, it would be probably a challenge for us to try to find somebody. So right now to have to look for 3 different psychologists is really going to be a challenge. But I will tell you that the school psychologists that we came together and talked about a plan, and, you know, they're picking up extra assessments. We're helping each other the best that we can. I think we're going to be okay, but certainly, you know, it's going to be a challenge to fill those positions.
The other thing you said about the grant 274.
Mm-hmm.
How much money is being talked about? And is it sustainable? Is it going to be renewable? Go ahead.
So right now, I believe for Leominster, it's $47,000. And it's not necessarily, we never know when we're going to get that grant. So that's why when I'm thinking about using it, I want to think about using it for something that would be a one-time use right now. So setting up those classrooms, making sure they have all the resources that they need, and then to think about, you know, what we're going to need extra this summer. It's not going to be a typical summer where we've had our little mini summer program. I think we're going to be looking at something a little more substantial. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but I'll be working with SPED directors around this area, us talking together and sharing resources. So next time, hopefully, I'll have maybe a little bit more information about what that will look like.
All right, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Kim? Sue? You have to unmute, Sue.
A minute. Okay, Kim, I just wanted to ask you, where, at all of our meetings, we've had the same parents address their situations individually. And I mean, how do you reach out to those parents, now that we're remote again and their child is not able to do anything? Do we have support for them?
So all of those families tonight, we've had team meetings for already, and some are actually, a second meeting is coming. And so that's times when we kind of brainstorm together about what we can do. I mean, we wish that there was more that we can do. We can't, we're not going to be able to send staff into the home. It's just not, a procedure that we can do right at this time. And so, trying to find other ways that we can help support families. Many of our families are telling us exactly what it is that they need, and we've been able to support them. We have some students that have some really, really high needs, and it really is challenging to be able to support them. And so that's why I think as we move forward, we're going to have to think about how we're going to use the data that we've collected to determine how to best support those kids. I will tell you, we've had some meetings that are pretty fabulous, where we're looking at some data that we're shocked to look at. We're like, this is amazing. And parents talking to us about how their student was a very shy individual, and they've become more self-confident, that being behind the computer has given them a little bit of confidence. We've heard some great stories, and we've seen some growth in some of our students that we were surprised to see and excited. And our teachers are really doing some amazing things and finding some resources that are pretty incredible. I'm learning from them. They're way ahead of me in regards to what resources we need. And they come to me and let me know, here's some tools, here's another way I could reach this family. I think the thing that has just happened naturally is that there has been the communication. Even the early childhood staff has said, wow, we're learning so much from our families. We've got bonds with them that we've never had before. We're in their home. We're able to advise them. We're able to share what the real challenges are. And for some of our families, that's really healing, to be able to talk about what the challenge is and to have somebody acknowledge that and to provide some ideas. Some of our BCBA, you heard a parent talk tonight about one of the BCBAs who, she's calling parents to say, hey, I had you try this yesterday. Tell me how it worked out. Can you take a video of the activity with your child and share it with me, and I can help you tweak it. So a lot of hours that are spending with communication with families.
I guess I'm just thinking, I'm sorry. I was just thinking of collaborative, there are alternatives if we can't meet the students' needs. Clearly, we heard from this parent tonight, her child just can't do anything remote. I mean, at what point do we consider maybe a collaborative might be the answer for that child, even in the short term? Because they are in-person learning at the collaboratives.
Yeah, not all of them are, to be honest with you. In the last couple of weeks, they have the same challenges
right.
that we have in regards to quarantine. Their staff has to quarantine. We had 2 schools closed over the past week, and some were just some programs. So they're having the same challenges we are in regards to having to deal with quarantine as well. But, certainly that's a team decision. And if we feel that a student needs that more restrictive setting, we certainly can discuss that as a team and make that recommendation.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments for Kim? Great. Thank you very much, Kim, for the presentation, and we look forward to an update when we come back after the holidays.
Great. Thank you.
So at this time, we're going to move on to approval of the minutes for November 16th. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any omissions, corrections, errors? All right, having none, I'm going to do a voice vote. Brandon?
Okay.
Melissa? Melissa, if you can unmute yourself to vote.
Melissa was having trouble with
Oh, was she?
streaming. Yep, so
Okay.
she tried to log out and she's just trying to get back in now.
All right, we'll move on. Sue?
Yay.
Peter?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
Ron?
Yay.
Isabel?
Yay.
Dean?
Yay.
And I'll be a yay. So motion carries, and we'll note that Melissa's vote is absent. So moving on, we have subcommittee reports. Mike, would you like to give the finance subcommittee report, please?
Yes, we have quite a bit of business tonight. I'll start with the good news. So far, we have, we're expecting an estimated reimbursement from the city through the CARES Act of $1,888,388.08 based on spending we've been able to do that's CARES Act appropriate. We heard a long report on how difficult it is to spend because under the rules, you have to actually spend it. You can't just order it. And lots of places that we would get stuff from have no stock because the pandemic's affecting their supply chain. But they're working hard to spend appropriately. We've also have in process a city appropriation of $1,846,172, which is based on the estimated additional Chapter 70 money that we anticipate getting from the state over the size of the estimate of Chapter 70 that was used in the original city budget back in June. And we have in process a city appropriation of $220,534, which is the E-rate reimbursement that comes up every year. So all told, that's about 3.9 million in additional revenue, which has helped a lot with all the extra expenses that we have. So the finance team is now confident that we should be able to make it to the end of the year in either remote or hybrid. We'll be able to afford our expenses. Secondly, we have some action items. I think it was mentioned last time, maybe not, but in any case, the transportation contract we have for regular school buses expires at the end of this fiscal year. So it is time to put that out to bid for a next contract. There is a likelihood that longer contracts will save us money over shorter contracts. However, to have a contract longer than 3 years requires the city council approval. And to ask city council for that approval, we have to first vote that that's our intention. So we talked about this. What we'd like to do is I'd like to make a motion that we approve requesting a request from the city council approval for a contract of up to 5 years for transportation. And then of course we'll have to go through the whole negotiation process.
Do we have a second? Ron is seconding it. Is there any questions or discussions? I'll
I have a
call.
question.
Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, so I know there's a packet I went through on my desk late last week and through the weekend. And I haven't had a chance to talk to the purchasing agent any length on this, but does he have a recommendation on this? Because it's beginning to appear in Massachusetts, or at least New England, that it's the same bus companies as you see in the for our transportation of special needs. It's beginning to go from 5 to 4 to 3 to almost one bus company now, controlling market share, and that's got to have an effect on our cost. So did the purchasing agent have any kind of a recommendation?
Well, two things. We are anticipating 2 bids this year, possibly more, but there's been an indication that there's a company that would like to bid against our current company. So we're hopeful that we'll actually have competing bids this time instead of just one. my understanding is that the purchasing agent did suggest that longer contracts tended to get you a better deal than shorter contracts because of certain prices you could lock in at current rates and not have to pay higher rates later. Just because,
as you remember, the last time we bid on these, fuel, I don't know what diesel specifically was, but the cost of fuel was $4 a gallon, and they wanted fuel adjustment charges. However, it didn't appear that when the cost went down to $1 something, $2 for diesel, that the prices went down at all. So I just get concerned whenever I see anybody monopolizing or purchasing market share in certain demographics. And they always use that as a, well, the reason we do that is we can share mechanics, we can share this, we can share that, but our costs continue to go up beyond the cost of inflation.
Paula, I know you had something to say.
Yes, just if I may through the chair, we've been working with procurement on this, and he is only suggesting that we allow city council to vote in up to a 5-year should we have a good contract. We know that we are going to have a bidding war, and then we will bring it back to the school committee for sure. And we also need a team together in which to do this. So we have been working with procurement for at least a month on this now, but we want to get in front of it and we don't want to be behind this one.
Would anybody else like to have a question or a comment? All right, having seen it none, we have a motion and a second. I'm going to do a voice vote. Brandon?
Yay.
Melissa?
Yay.
Sue?
Yay.
Peter?
Yay.
Mike?
yay.
Ron?
Yay.
Isabel?
Yay.
Dean?
I'll be a no at this point. I just, the document just made it to my desk, and until I can have a more detailed discussion with the purchasing agent, I'll be a nay for now.
And I'll be a yay. So the motion carries with one dissenting vote. Mike, is there anything else from the finance subcommittee that we need to be brought up to speed?
We will have to form a negotiation committee for to represent the school committee. That's up to you, of course, but I think we had 3 people last time. I'm hoping that at least one person from finance will be on it, but it could be open to any school committee members. I don't know if we particularly need to set that up tonight because we haven't gotten permission from city council and we're not actually in bids yet, but.
Right. Why doesn't anybody who's interested email me? Because we may only have 3 people. If we have more, then we can make, a decision. But if you're interested, why don't you email me? And that way we'll have people in the queue and, if and when we have city council vote.
Right. Secondly, we have a transfer request. We've been asked to transfer $600,000 from on the wages and salaries side, DESI code 2305, which is teacher salaries. Transfer that to the expenses side, DESI code 2410 textbooks. We have extra in salaries, largely due to some savings that have happened from people retiring or resigning. And this will fund the new version of the district's current comprehensive literacy curriculum for grades K through 5, which is called Wonders 2020. District's currently using Wonders 2017. This new version has updated online features that we've been piloting that curriculum is very happy with. Because it's a transfer from wages and salaries to expenses, we crossed that boundary, so that can only be done with full school committee approval. We discussed it at finance. We were in favor of this, so I will make a motion that we approve this transfer request.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Peter. This is going to be any discussions or comments before we take a vote?
Yeah, I have if I could, through the chair to the finance chair.
Sure, Dean.
So, and this is certainly not casting any prejudgment against anything, because it's been very difficult to kind of follow the moving ball here. But I think before the end of the year, it is going to be critical, because I know back at City Hall, our finance people trying to follow this thing from day one. We first had layoffs, and then many things have happened along the way. For instance, as I understand it, there were positions that weren't filled, but other positions that might have been created. So it's been very difficult, Mike, to kind of follow this along. And that's not criticism to you or the administration or anybody, but I think we've got to make that step back, and we've got to start back at the budget in July that was passed and sort of recreate that so that we can, everyone in the community can fully understand exactly from day one and monies that were added, because I can see my text coming in already. How can we be transferring money from salary and wages when we cut positions? And so I know that some positions, because we're in it sort of remote, we were at remote, and then we were at remote/hybrid, or then hybrid, and then we're back, that requires fluctuation in staffing. So I guess, I don't know the standard that you'd like to use, but maybe it's the matrix is full-time equivalents in comparison to, say, last year. And obviously, we should be communicating. See, my thing about all school committee meetings is we should be talking about the budget, we should be talking about student achievement, and we should also be talking about feedback from the customer, being the parents and the students. And that should be on, in my opinion, every single agenda. And all these other things that we discuss are very important, but we need to recreate what's already happened. And it's very difficult to anybody. We're having a difficult time, let alone a parent or a staff member or the union that wants to decide to follow along. So I think at some point we have to start and then be able to explain this in layman's terms, exactly where we started and where we're at now before the end of the half year, because it's difficult for me to approve and to vote to transfer money from salary and wages if in fact the perception out there is we still don't have enough money to hire I think it was said earlier tonight that we don't have the proper staffing. Now, that may be that we're trying to hire the proper staffing. As I think Kim said, we have the funding for it. I think she alluded to it, but didn't say it. We have the funding for it. We just can't get the bodies in. So I think we have to spend some time. We can't just keep moving here and not explaining as we go along what's happening. So I think we need a snapshot, Mike, and I know it'll take a little time, and this is something that, can work with the administration on, but a snapshot of where we were July 1st and where we are now. And that, to me, is really critical. And I'm going to have a hard time. I'll go along with supporting this tonight, but I can just see my phone here. I can just look at what's happening while we're having this discussion. Yeah, and you could,
okay.
Mike, and I'm sure you could have, hold on, excuse me. I listened for an hour and 40 minutes now. And I think you can appreciate what I'm speaking to.
Paula, you had your hand up, and then I'll take anybody else after that.
I just want to say this is a curriculum need due to the circumstances for students from K to 12. This is a basic need. So our student chooses curriculum. It serves remote. It's a K through 5. We've been using it. It's a 2020 curriculum. And so I'll just leave it at that.
And does anybody else have any questions or comments? Dean, I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? All right, Dean, if it's something new, that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Eileen, it's 8:34 at night. We're getting to the essence of the business of the school committee. This is our function. This is our legal function. This is our legal responsibility. I just spoke for 4 minutes. And what I'm trying to get to is we're transferring money out of salary and wages. Have we hired back those who were cut because we didn't have sufficient funds supposedly at the time? Yes or no? I'm asking these because I want to understand this, because I want to be able to vote this and support the administration. But number one, we're not supposed to be voting on anything on the first night to begin with, so that people can get ample information. Secondly, I need to know the answer to this if we're going to, in fact, suspend the rules tonight to vote on this.
So let's give people, I want to make sure that Melissa has her hand up to hear everyone, and then, maybe Melanie can respond, or Mike. Melissa?
Hi. So my computer has been freezing and I apologize. I hope you can hear me. My questions are, but they're sort of along the same lines. We're hearing that we're down 3 school psychologists. We know there's a need for additional nursing support. I just want to make sure that those positions and positions that we've laid off and hope to rehire, that those positions or the funding for those positions is in place before we do a transfer. As much as I understand the need for the software, we also have the need for the staff, obviously, to support the software.
Paula, did you want to respond to that?
Yes, through the chair, if I may. Mel, could you please speak to our personnel issues?
Go ahead, Melanie.
Sure. Thank you. So all of the staff that we're speaking about, that Kim has spoken about, that, you know, between nurses and psychologists, yes, those are all positions that we have posted. We are interviewing, we are hoping to fill those positions. As a finance situation would entail, the money is being held aside. Obviously, we would not put out a position and then not have the funds set aside for that position. That being said, we did have savings of almost $3.8 million from anybody who decided they were resigning or they decided that they weren't coming back due to maybe a fear of COVID. We also had resignations that were just, you know, people decided that it wasn't their time to come back. They didn't want to take the positions that were offered to them. We had retirees, we had, you know, a lot of savings in that respect. So the 3.8 million that's savings in salaries was more than enough to cover the curriculum that we're asking for and those positions that we have posted.
Melanie, can you please tell them where we're usually at this point in time with monies? You're frozen.
Sure. So I did a comparison last year to, sorry about that. Okay, can you still hear me?
You're sounding very slow and underwater.
No, you're fading out.
Can you guys, can anybody hear me?
No.
Barely.
All right,
we're not
I'm
getting
gonna sign off and come back.
Right. I think, Dean, she's trying to answer your question. Obviously, she's having some technical difficulty.
So, Dean,
and it would be important to hear the information so you have some of the information, maybe not all of it that you requested.
Madam Chair.
Through the chair, can I, Melissa, I think, can you just clarify? I think your question was, even though that we don't have somebody in the position, do we have the funding for it?
Yes,
and I
do.
agree with you. That was part one of my question. Two, just so we're in
And
sync.
so Melanie, just before you go on, Melanie answered that and said, yes,
Yes,
they've
Correct.
set that money aside. And then I think she was getting to another piece, but obviously.
I went through the chair to Melissa. So I just want to make sure we're in sync. And so the second part of the question, I think you were in that direction, is do we have the funding for all of the positions that are required at this particular given point? That's, in other words, people that were laid off have been rehired. Are we at that point where we have that funding for the rest of the year?
So we're going to let Melanie answer that, Dean. So she's got her hand up. Let her answer your question. Go ahead, Melanie.
Sorry, I'm not sure why my Wi-Fi is so slow right now, but yes, those the reduction in force list that we were keeping track of, everybody on that list who was left as a reduction in force has been asked back. And if they've not wanted to take the position, then we have moved forward and posted the position. And yes, the funding is there.
Yep. Mel, your position.
Trying to make sure my computer isn't that slow. I'm not sure why it's so slow.
It's still really difficult to understand you, Mel. You're still having trouble.
So through the chair.
Paula?
I apologize.
I know what Mel's saying. So any position that was out there, we have called back and we have posted. There is not personnel out there that wants these positions, but Mel has secured those funds. So we are in a good place for personnel. We just can't get people at this point. And
Understood. Yep. And Melanie, maybe I couldn't hear you. I don't want to keep going to, prolong this, but if you could, and I think you said you broke up at I think it was 3.8 million in savings. Can you get us a breakdown of that so we can understand that? And that would be helpful. And I don't expect it tomorrow, but obviously if you gave the number out, you must have the information that would be helpful for us to be able to get. But unless somebody's going to ask for suspension under the rules, we would need another. This is the first time on the agenda. Mike, isn't that correct?
That's how city council works. I don't believe school committee has ever worked that way.
Right. I don't think that's something that we have typically done. We do a first reading, a second reading of policy, but we certainly have numerous times had a motion on the same night. Paula, did you have something?
Yes,
Go ahead, Paula.
I would like to know what the mayor's exact question is for Melanie. We're really busy. We're running around. So what exactly would you like, Mr. Mayor, from Melanie, and what is the time frame in which you would like to have that? And is it the will of the committee?
Well, I think I can ask for the information. She gave a number out of a savings of 3.8 million. She must have that readily available, right, to be able to send to. I'm not expecting to shut down the system and have people work on work that's not already been done. She gave a number of 3.8 million. I would like the backup for that 3.8 million in savings. That's all. I mean, she's already given the number. Apparently, you've already arrived at that. How did you arrive at that? Where's the backup? That's all I'm looking for. It's pretty simple.
So you're asking for what positions that we receive the reduction in cost.
Madam Chair, I'm having a conversation with somebody that's not on the school committee. Hold on one second, okay? Madam Chair and Finance Chair, I'm directing this to you. It was stated tonight there's a $3.8 million savings. There has to be documentation that backs that up, right? How they arrived at that. I'm just
Which has been provided to the school committee previously. We've discussed the RIFs and who's been brought back and the financial consequences of that in several meetings. Certainly provided.
Point of order.
Okay.
Don't interrupt Michael.
Okay, Ron. Michael, let Michael answer your question because I think he's trying to address it.
Yeah. So, Dean, this information has been provided. We, at several school committee meetings, have already received the RIF report, how many were laid off, how many were brought back, how many resigned, how many retired, and adding up to this number. I'm sure the business department can provide us this report again, but this is not something new. We have discussed this at previous school committee meetings.
All right, Mike, I'm looking for an update, not previous meetings. I'm looking for an updated. That's all. It's simple. Just update it, and I'm a happy person. That's it. I get it.
So I think Paula said that she would be happy to give that to you. She was just questioning if you had a time constraint or something and wanted to make sure that we were giving you all the information you were requesting. No one's disputing that.
Yes, I want to be very clear. I got one. You're right, Mike. I got one a month ago, and I want one. What I'm looking for is an updated one now, not 3 weeks ago or a month ago. I'm looking for an updated one. That's what we should be getting at every single school committee meeting. That's what we should be having conversations about. That's what should be on the agenda. That's what we should be spending an hour and a half or 2 hours on. Student achievement. Where are we on our budget? And how are our customers feeling about the services they're getting, and how can we help them, and how can we help the staff? That's what I'm interested in talking about. That's why I need this information. It needs to be updated constantly, because this is very difficult. This is not in a usual year. You've got so many different moving parts that it's very difficult to follow along. I get these questions all the time. I want to be able to understand it, and I want to be able to explain it. That's all.
All right, and I think Paula has agreed to get you that information. So we will, do that, and we have been getting those reports monthly. So hopefully we'll also have an updated at our next school committee meeting as well. All right, does anybody, go ahead, Paula, you had another.
We do the HR report twice a month. The only reason we could not do it was we had that secretary out ill this week.
All right, thank you. So you'll get the information to Dean, and we'll have it all in our packet for our next meeting as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
And through the chair once more, Mike, if you want to sit, I'd be glad to have you on my cable show, whatever, and just explain. I mean, you have a good handle on it. I'm really interested in being able to explain this. If you have a good handle on it, I'm glad to sit down. We can take this on TV at whatever convenience, put it on the radio, and you can explain it all in terms of it. I mean, if you understand it and you have all the information and it's up to date, I welcome that, because I really think it would be a good service to the public to be able to understand where we're at. I don't think people have the amount of time that we do, or the staff does, to understand all the moving parts and what it all means at the end of the day, and be able to put a summary together in less than 5 minutes. And I think it's a very difficult year. There are many moving parts, money coming from different parts. And I think it's an extra special year to be transparent and over communicate.
So it might make sense to have Melanie speak at our next school committee meeting, because certainly as the head of our business, she has and should have all the answers to assist us. So.
Absolutely. Even if we have to have a special meeting, I'm okay with that as well.
That works.
Okay, perfect. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? I want to make sure, Ron?
Mike, this is just through the chair, this is directed towards Mike. If we don't vote on this tonight, is there any damage going to be done to the kids?
Yes. Well,
how much damage are we talking about?
I mean, we need to, in order to use the product, we have some classes using it as a pilot. In order to use it school-wide, we have to purchase it school-wide. Now, of course, really, the state is finally about to make our number official, and the city is appropriating the extra Chapter 70 money to go with that. So it is about to be finally time for us to actually put forth and pass the official revised budget for this year, much, much later than normal. So, as a procedural matter, we could just change the numbers in that, but that would then leave it not documented that this is what we did. With the first part I gave you tonight was the good news, where we were able to spend some things out of CARES Act money that the city has shared with us that we used to be planning to spend out of our general fund. We've gotten some extra Chapter 70 money. So I'm 100% confident that we're in a better position tonight than we were in before. So I'm not worried that this transfer of $600,000 is going to somehow lose us staff.
No.
That we had a plan for. Like we have a plan for enough. We're trying to get enough staff. It's hard to hire enough people, but that money has been set aside. As is always the case every year, the actual number in wages and salaries and the actual number in expenses never come out quite balanced with needs. I think every year that I've been on the committee, we've transferred some money from one to the other at some point, just to reflect what we've actually done. So my take would be that there's an important remote learning component of this that the curriculum folks say is an immediate need because we have so much remote going on. And so we should move $600,000 to pay for that, and we should pay for that and start using it. But also, absolutely, as I said, it is time, or just about time, to present our revised budget to reflect the reality of all the things that have happened budget-wise, which I think is the very first thing you were asking for, Dean, or some version of that. So that's upcoming. We also, by the time we get that done, it will be time to start talking about next year's budget. So that's also in progress.
Right. Peter had a comment, and then we have a motion made, and we need to follow up with that. So go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we talked about this in finance, so I guess, back to Michael, just to clarify something that I believe he said and that we discussed in finance. I mean, this is a transfer request, but city council already approved the $1.8 million that's anticipated from the increase in Chapter 70 from the state. So, I mean, this is the 600,000 is transferring, but as far as we know, that extra 1.8 from the Chapter 70 is on its way anyways. This is just kind of a timing thing to speed up the purchase of the software, well, the textbooks / software.
All right, so I know we had a motion. Did we have a second?
I'll
make a second. Oh.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. This is going to be a voice vote. We're going to go with Brandon.
Yay.
Melissa.
Yay.
Sue.
Yay.
Peter.
Yay.
Mike.
Yay.
Ron.
Yay.
Isabel.
Yay.
Dean.
I'll be a nay, and the reason is we went from $30 million worth of cuts to over $600,000 in less than 5 months that we're transferring. And until I feel comfortable and see the backup to it, I really do believe we have taken things on on our first meeting and then passed them on the second. And I'll go back and look towards those records, but it is past practice for us. So I'll be a no.
Okay, and I'll be a yay, so the motion carries.
My last item.
Go ahead, Mike.
Finance is that, as you know, each year, the school department's end of year report is due October 1st. School department finished its part on time. We are waiting, as usual, for the city to provide the breakdown of the indirect charges for last year and to sign the certification statement. We have received a letter yesterday or the day before, today, from DESI informing us that they're losing patience. They plan to withhold our second quarter circuit breaker in January and possibly our Chapter 70 funds until this is remedied. So far, communications from the school department to the city on this matter have gone unanswered.
So that's obviously something that we need taken care of. Dean, can you assist us in any way?
Yeah, nobody talked to me about it, but we have conveyed that they are working. We have a new treasurer who just started. We had our former treasurer who had a death in his family, slowed things down, but they are working on it diligently, as fast as they can, at the same time handling all of the work that comes from the school department, transfers, re-ups, layoff, whatever it might be in the accounting division. So they're moving as quick as they can to get it in. They want it done more than anybody at this particular point.
So if you could just pass along that we are getting some communication that this might impact some of our money being released to us, I'm sure that will help motivate everybody, because clearly that's not going to benefit, the treasurer or us.
We'll never be in that situation. We've always got backup. So there's never a situation where the school department is going to get a reduction. That is between, the city, and they can say they're going to do whatever they're going to do. But at the end of the day, the school department always gets its money. We never have had to cut back in the school department for any issue at all. So it's just we could kick in the temporary spending. So it's not going to be an issue. So we'll straighten it out with the state. And I haven't seen anything. So if you got something today, Mike, could you send it off to me?
Yeah, I can send everybody a copy.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else, Mike?
That's it.
All right, policy subcommittee. Ron, is there anything to report?
No, we didn't have a meeting. We had no meeting, and the only thing I thought it was going to have to be it was about the addendum to the policy handbook, but there was we just did an update, so there was no there's no second reading, so there's nothing. We didn't have a meeting at all.
Thank you, Ron. We're going to move on to action items. I don't see any. Superintendent, are you aware of any action items that we're missing?
Nothing this
All right.
evening.
All right, then we'll move to new and old business. Does anybody have new or old business?
I just have a question.
Sure, Dean.
So I don't know the last time we did a parent survey, but I would certainly like to try to get one out there before the holiday season, so we start off fresh. I know that Kim in special ed had talked about constantly trying to get feedback and how they can do better, and are there ways that they can, you know, if things aren't working in the home and working on remote, or the things that they can do. I think I'd like to see another. I don't know the last time we did one. I'd certainly like to see another. And then I'd just like also to comment on the passing of David Hay, who was just a wonderful man, and his greatest gift was patience. And there were a lot of things that he saw inequities in our schools when one school was better than the other. And the one thing that he was masterful at is getting his point across, gathering support, and being patient about it, understanding it couldn't happen overnight. He's just a wonderful man and a great human being, and and certainly found his calling and followed it. Secondly, Attorney Greg Angelini was born and brought up here in the city, loved this city, loved history, was a hard but fair negotiator. He worked with the school committee and represented us for many, many, many years, as well as other school committees in the area, and always had the best interest of kids and the city and everyone. And just a real sad, to hear two real pioneers in the world of education leave us so soon. So and I will certainly, if somebody can send me the information as to how do we make a donation for Mr. Hay and where it goes, I'd be glad to make a donation.
Thanks, Dean. I don't know if you had heard, Jeff, but you can do it through LEF or through Fallbrook for the donation for the David Hay Scholarship. So that's very generous. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, clearly their passing, is a tragedy, because they were both friends of the Leominster School District and really important people. Melissa?
And the last thing on the new business is just on my last final item, thank you, is I think what I took notes here, what Mike, the chair of the Finance Committee, said is that this funding that we're talking about earlier tonight is for, and it is new business, is for, these resources relate to remote learning. But he also said that we can't spend all of the money in the CARES Act because the supplies don't exist. But the reality is, and I think we should check into this, CARES Act money does fund remote learning. So I think we should check into that just to make sure that there's not an opportunity to use CARES Act money to fund these resources, because it is specifically related to remote learning, and CARES Act does cover, it specifically covers remote learning.
Yep, Dean, that's an excellent question. And we asked the same question in finance, and Paula shared that they tried, but I guess because of the number of years and the book component, in any case, it didn't fly.
Okay.
We have till December 30th.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Thank you.
That's fine. I should have mentioned that.
No, that's okay. There's a lot on your plate. No problem.
Trying our best.
Melissa, you had something?
Yeah, I guess just maybe a brief question or discussion where we are in the red right now, and the state has not been wanting districts to close. I guess maybe just some information on the feedback, if any, you've gotten from, or Kathy's gotten from DESI as our numbers have increased.
I don't know if Kathy's on the line. Kathy, are you on?
I don't see her.
Okay.
So if, Madam Chair, if you don't mind.
Yep, go ahead, Paula.
So Kathy and I have been working closely with Board of Health and with the Department of Ed. Our issue right now still is around the quarantining of staff. It's not so much the transmission. We don't have appropriate staff. The people that are getting sick or are quarantining are the most imperative staff that we have. We need every get healthy, follow the guidelines, do what they need to do. We're in contact with the state every day. Kathy's been doing a great job. We don't want to be in this circumstance. It's better for us to be in school, but at this point, it's just, we can't. So hopefully the 4th, we can come back. Everyone will be healthy. Kathy gives us daily updates. She's running the numbers right now. It's difficult. It really is.
Peter?
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of already know the answer to this, and Kathy would be better to answer, potentially Paula, but I mean, the numbers that are reported by Desi and that are on the dashboard on the, on our site, on the district site, I mean, that's only reporting folks that were in schools within 7 days of testing positive, correct? It's not capturing everybody that might be outside of that, over the holidays or while we've been on a remote break or whatever the situation may be. So it's actually, if you want to answer the question, it's higher than what it appears according to the DESI numbers.
It is. Thank you, Peter, for bringing that up. I'm not Kathy, but she schools me every day on this. It's a 7-day report. So students who are not in school because we're doing the hybrid, if you're on a Monday, Tuesday, you miss a day, you're not in the count that's going towards the state. It's a very convoluted process. And so she's trying to track everybody down. It's impossible. And she's not comfortable with it. So we are going with the city numbers right now, and our positivity rate, we set thresholds, and we have maxed out all 3 thresholds that we set for the city of Leominster at this point.
I know when I saw Kathy last week, she was stating that she, like you said, tries to track down every single everyone, but sometimes it's difficult and she doesn't have up-to-date contact information, or people are doubling up or, sort of moving around, which makes it very difficult. So she sometimes isn't able to actually contact everyone physically.
Not everyone has contact information right now.
Right.
So do we
And
know what
Dean,
the
I would-
positivity rate is in the schools?
In the schools or the
Right.
city?
We know what the positivity rate is. You understand? I mean, the state does it, but we have more than half the state has very few people in it, and they're very remotely populated. So what the state should have done is take a look at rural areas and look what the positivity rate is there on average, and they should have looked at areas that are densely populated. What they didn't do as a mistake is they just put it all into one. So when you look at positivity rates, and it looks like it's high in Leominster, Mass versus the average, because more than half the state doesn't have any hotels or shopping or medical or whatever. So what is the positivity rate in our schools? That's the question that people ask me, and I can't give them an answer.
So nor can Kathy, because the way the state is recording it, it's not accurate because of the way they're collecting the information. Our students are not in 5 days a week. We have them in a hybrid situation, so they don't get counted. And the students that are in a remote situation are not in the count either. So they're completely going by the community rates, which is what you need, Mr. Mayor.
Right. I mean, why can't we just take our own? Mike's a great mathematician. Why can't we just take our own numbers that we know of that are in school and come up with our own positivity rate? That would, I think, explain to the public.
Testing.
I'm sorry?
We don't do in-school testing, so there's not a way to
No,
know
we don't.
what school testing positivity rate is. We do community testing. We know that the 7-day average positivity rate for Leominster is over 10% now. It's been climbing steadily.
Correct. But it breaks it down. No, I mean, they've gone down, like, they're going down, not up. We haven't seen that big spike from Thanksgiving that we were supposed to get.
No.
We haven't.
No,
The
we
numbers,
haven't-
the
we haven't-
positivity rate has been climbing.
Yeah, we have not seen a
It's
sudden
gone down
spike.
15. It's gone down 15 today. What are you talking about? Went down 15 today.
I'm caught.
Over 10%. It's been steadily climbing, the 7-day average. I can share that with you too. I state this straight from the state reports.
Well, what do you think we get our information every day?
Right.
Listen,
Well, the
just so you
average
understand
daily-
this, just
the
so you
average
understand this, that she hasn't been doing this reporting since February. She just started to do it because we lost the person that we had doing it for us at the city, went to work for the school department. We've been doing this since February.
She's been doing it since February.
Yeah.
We were in the Merlin system in February. We're the ones that have been calculating these numbers since February. So she just started to do this stuff because somebody transferred from the city over to the school department less than a month and a half ago. So I understand the numbers. I'm saying that we can break it down further, and if you want to go by age group or whatever, you can break it down further to see what the positivity rate is in the schools. That's all. I mean, it's not that complicated.
So the
Point
state
of order.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
so,
can't-
so in any case, I know we can go back and forth, on this issue. I think you're right, Dean, it is helpful to know how many students and staff, is impacting the school system, but we also need to understand that not everybody who might be positive or in quarantining is showing up in our numbers based on whether they're physically in the school or not. So it is a big, undertaking. And I know Kathy tries to reach out and talk to every single family that has a child 18 and under that's coming up positive. So I know she does try to do that, but I still think that there's people that we miss. And you just had a big, I would imagine, successful, because I saw a long line of free testing
very
this
successful.
week. So hopefully we'll get those numbers as well, or we should have them already, I guess.
Yeah, you've had them.
So.
And the other thing is, remember, there's another footnote as we all learn more and more about this. If you get tested and your doctor says, there's a chance that this could be off, this style of testing, get tested again, but don't come back here, go somewhere else. When you take that test, it's counted as another positive, not you're coming off a particular list, or that you're a new person. You're counted as a positive. So you're right. There are no easy ways to explain the whole thing. They just try to do the best that they can at calculating numbers. But I think what the state has to do is look at two things: separating rural areas from densely populated areas, and then give us a number as to what our student population, what our positivity rate is for our students. I think that's pretty important. It's something that's missing in the equation. Other states do that regularly, like daily. That's all.
Dean, don't you have an in with Charlie Baker that you could talk to him about changing the way things are
well, they
tabulated, because we as a school committee don't have much choice.
Right. No, I mean, they have changed a number of different areas, but I think they just got themselves into, again, how do you compare 5 square miles in Somerville to Petersham? And then there's just no mathematical sense that makes, to say the average in Massachusetts is 4%, but we're at 8 or 10 or 12, or Somerville is at, or Lynn is at, 13%. It just doesn't make any sense. But that's, they're doing the best they can, just like we are. But I just try to, as somebody that's been here this long, I try to make sense of everything, because people ask me the questions. I want to be able to answer it. And if I can, I want to be able to get back to them with the answer. And if I can't, it's very frustrating. That's all.
Right.
Thank
And
you.
we just need to make sure that we're giving out accurate information.
Yeah,
and I think it's hard for
absolutely.
us to have a definitive in this. And I think we all want that answer, not just you, but we all want that answer. So, all right. Does anybody else have anything else for new and old business? All right. If not, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, Isabel, do I have a second? Sue will second. It's going to be a voice vote. Brandon?
Yay.
Melissa?
Yay.
Sue?
Yay.
Peter?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
Ron?
Yay.
Isabel?
Yay.
Dean? Dean, I don't know what happened to Dean. And I will be a yay. So the motion carries, noting that Chris is waving goodbye. So
Bye,
thank you,
Chris.
everyone. Please stay safe and healthy. Until next time. Bye.